I think the core guiding principle of Hua is like, how can I stay connected to back home, to my cousins back home? Because like as you get older, like the nature of things is like you get married, they have kids, and like there's distance that forms, and that's very natural. And the second, how can I like have an excuse to like essentially hang out with my dad on a random moment? And that's kind of the core ethos of Hua. I think it's just like I grew up at a certain age where I realized, oh, if I want these things to continue and I want them to be for the next generation, where you have a connection back home, or you even just view the thing of like working with your dad. It's a very big ethos, I think, in like the neighborhood I grew up in. You kind of need to act on it now.
Hey everybody, this is Caitlin Bricker, editor at Startup CPG. We are back with another founder feature. Everybody make space in your pantry because today we're talking with Bilal Othman, founder of Huwa. Huwa is an olive oil brand with deep roots. Bilal's family has been nurturing olive trees in Palestine for hundreds of years. Their extra virgin olive oil is some of the purest in the world, handcrafted with the indigenous traditions they are striving to keep alive. I left this conversation feeling inspired by the brand's family focus from trees to bottle. I hope you love this episode as much as I loved the unforgettable brand experience of receiving my first bottle of Huwa. You'll have to listen in to learn more. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Caitlin, and today I'm here with Bilal Othman, founder of Huwa. Bilal, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you here. I feel like your olive oil is such a standout product because I have never seen an olive oil with the branding and packaging that your brand has. So I'm really excited to
Thank
dive
you.
in and get to know you and your brand. So, to start off, I'd love for you to introduce us to Huwa. For anybody who's listening and isn't familiar with your brand, can you tell us what Huwa is?
Yeah. Hua is basically existed in my family for 100 years at different variations. My family's been harvesting olives in Palestine for as long as anyone can know. So long that it's like past written history. It's like oral history, basically. So yeah, basically what Hua is my family makes good olive oil from Palestine. We've been farmers for generations and generations. I'm the first generation to basically not farm. I work at an ad agency, so like the opposite of farming. Um, and yeah, we just kind of bought it to the US. We've been selling it at the back of like mosque parking lots in my neighborhood growing up. And then we won a community grant from the Queen's Economic Development Fund to actually put it into a bottle. And that's like what you see in front of you today.
This is going to be such a good story. I already know. So before we get deeper into your brand, I want to get more into you since you're the foundation of the brand. I understand that Bilal Othman is not your full name. Can you share your full name and a bit of the history behind it?
Yeah, so the way, um, Autobahn, specifically Palestinian names work is, like, it's, like, your name, and then your dad's name, and then your grandpa's name, and your great-grandpa's name, and it goes on and on. And, like, my full name is, like, Bilal, or Omar Othman, Salah Othman, Mohammed Smir, it goes on and on and on. And then there's, like, a series of names lost to history, and then it goes to Huwaushe, which is part of where Hua comes from, and then it goes to Deriya, which is, like, the clan name. So goes on a very long, essentially a bunch of names listed of different people, and every single person in that lineage has been a farmer, or worked or existed in, like, agricultural communities in Palestine. Um, so that's the background of my name. That was your question, right? The background of my name?
Yes, you
Okay, yeah,
answered it perfectly.
yeah.
All right. So speaking of names, why Hua? I know you just touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to hear some more about that.
First of all, it's cute. Hua, 4 letters, it's like I like W's and A's, like, they look nice together, so that's, like, part of it. The other part of it is, Huausha's kind of a funny name to have, as a family name, right? Because the name of it comes from the root word "hoshe" in Arabic, which means, like, people who start a problem. So, like, I think it's a nickname that someone gave our family, like, way back that, like, is a negative connotation, but, like, someone was, like, really stoked on that negative connotation and was like, "Yo, our family name's the Hawosha now." So that's, like, the backdrop, I guess, of, like, the Hawosha name, and we just took that and just put Hua. It's also, like, we could be corny and be like, "We disrupting olive oil, Hua disruption, etcetera, causing problems." I don't know. But, yeah, it's just basically the family name.
I do agree that it's very cute, and it's an outlier in olive oil, I will say. Not only with the branding and packaging, but with the name. It's not like It's not a mouthful to me. It rolls off the tongue, which is not easy for me because I feel like I get tongue-tied very often, so
No,
great
same.
job.
Thank you.
So talk to me about your lineage. What makes you an outlier when it comes to olives? I understand that your family has a history of being olive farmers, so why are you different?
Yeah, I think biggest factor is raised in the States. So my dad was lucky enough to uh, basically everyone has been an olive farmer, right? Like doing it for a very long time. My dad grew up most of his life basically doing agriculture of some kind, whether it's like herding sheep, like being an olive farmer, like harvesting grain, like, all their memories. Like when I talk to my dad, his childhood memories are like, it was almond season. And during almond season, we did this. And like it'll be like stories that are always rooted back to kind of the harvest cycles of Palestine. Um, the reason I didn't kind of go down that path is just because I was raised in the States. I was raised in Little Palestine, Chicago, in like a very small immigrant pocket community, but I was always exposed to oil. So the way it works is every October is olive harvest season. So the whole community goes down in Palestine, everyone's picking it. I'm in school, so I know it's happening, but like my dad's not obviously sending me back to go help anyone. But November hits and basically these 17-liter tanks of oil come at our door and we start, eating fresh olive oil, and, like, when we first get it, it's, like, a big deal in the family, like, my mom makes certain dishes, like, my dad is, like, super excited about, like, "This year's harvest was good, this year's harvest was, like, average, the rain was et cetera," so, even though I grew up in the diaspora, like, it still was a major part of the way the family saw the, like, yearly schedule.
I love that. I feel like I could picture just this bright, luscious green oil arriving in a tank. It must have been like a real celebration to see that show up for your family.
No, 100%. Especially because it was like, yo, like, that's the moment that, I think, like, immigrant fathers, especially, like, men, like, there's not really ways that they kind of dispense information about their lives well. Like, they don't, like, sit you down and be like, "Here's the story." It's always, like, through the vehicle of something, and it was always, like he would tell us these stories of, like, being a kid or, like, what his dad was like or, what even, like, family members that I know from back home, but, like, what they were like at, like, 20. Um, that yeah, it was always kind of like it would pull things out of him, which I always really liked about it.
Can you share anything specific when you think about an olive oil memory? I'm curious if there's anything that stands out in your mind.
Trying to think of any that, like, I heard that I think are, like, funny. Like, the one that I like is, like, my dad's older brother who's, like, a big part of Hua, right? He's my uncle. He was kind of like a bully to my dad. So, basically, like, while my, uncle wouldn't be looking, he'd, like, sneak in, like, cigarettes and, like, be trying to, like, kind of be a because basically you would live on the olive grove, like, in that like, for, like, a 2-week period to go harvest it, especially ones that are super far off in the Jordan Valley that are no longer accessible. So he'd basically trying to sneak cigarettes or something like that, and then, like, when he'd get caught or in trouble, he'd always blame my dad. So I feel like that's one that I like because when you see these 2 men hang out, they're objectively like, one's 67, the other's 63, right? They're older dudes, and, like, they still feel like children kind of bickering at each other in a way that's very cute and wholesome. And you kind of see those stories like, oh, like I kind of see the dynamic of like him being kind of a little bit of a bully to my dad in like a wholesome way, in like an older brother sibling.
That's really funny. I see the smile that it's bringing to your face, and it's, like, bringing me joy hearing that story because I can totally picture that happening, not knowing your dad or your uncle at all.
Yeah, both are funny people.
Oh, that's awesome. So what prompted you to take the olive oil and create Hua? What was the moment where you thought, "This needs to be a brand"?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think the core guiding principle of Hua is like, how can I stay connected to back home to my cousins back home? Because like as you get older, like the nature of things is like you get married, they have kids, and like there's distance that forms, and that's very natural. And the second, how can I, like, have an excuse to, like, essentially hang out with my dad on a random moment? And that's kind of the core ethos of who is. I think it's just, like, I grew up at a certain age where I realized, "Oh, if I want these things to continue and I want them to be for the next generation, where you have a connection back home or you even just view the thing of, like, working with your dad." It's a very big ethos, I think, in, like, the neighborhood I grew up in. You kind of need to act on it now. So we had these basically like what used to be is like kind of what I mentioned is every October, 17-liter tanks, people in the neighborhood started hearing our region is known for good olives. People be like, okay, bring me a tank over when you guys get it. And we'll pay you guys. And it kind of catapulted into kind of being a bigger and bigger thing where, we're bringing in a couple dozen, like, 60, 70 tanks for people in the neighborhood. And like my dad's sending me off to the north side of Chicago to drop it off to some random guy who I don't know. And it was like, okay, let's formalize this. This is like good oil. People like it. It's a fun thing to do with my dad. Like, how can we actually make this more legit into a business and bring in the skills that like I built, like, you know, being in America, um, to like work with the family essentially. Like I was texting my cousin earlier today and it was just like probably wouldn't have been texting him today if it wasn't for Hua. So yeah, that's kind of the backstory of it.
I love that. So would you say that Hua is a family-owned and run business?
Oh, 100%. Like the whole point of it at some level isn't to make money. I mean, obviously, like we all want money. Like that's like pretty obvious, but like it's like the core of it is literally just like, how could we hang out as a family? And like if we keep that as a guiding principle, I think everything else will just fall in place.
Ugh, that is so good and so refreshing to hear. I feel like I do not hear that often enough. I actually have not heard that yet, and I just love that so much. It definitely sounds like you're building quite the legacy with the brand within your family, and then for people who adopt the brand too and become Hua olive oil users in their household. I love that. So, this bottle, I think I've talked about it already a few times. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Feel like there's an olive oil craze. I would say the market is kind of saturated, but again, Hua is an outlier for me anyway because it just looks so different from anything else that you'd see on a shelf. So walk me through your design. From the shape of the bottle to the way it dispenses, the cartoon, the stickers. This is unlike any experience I've had with a brand in general before. So talk to me about this.
Yeah. I think it was really fun to make because it was like the first exercise of like, okay, how do we do this as a family? And it's like kind of a silly thing to go bring. Like when I showed my aunt the bottle, she's like, bro, this is like one dish. Like this is not a portion of oils. And it was really fun to just like talk to everyone in the family and like get their ideas. And this is genuinely like an aggregation of everyone's memories, I feel like, in a design. Um, So, I mean, there was some part of, like, traditional market research, right? Of like, okay, I realized, like, hey, if you wanna be on a retail shelf, like, you gotta look unique to stick out. Like, that was a key learning point, but then from there, we went and, like, we're like, "Okay, how do we get the whole family involved in this process?" Because that's a creative, that's creative energy that's never been tapped, right? Like, no one's tapping in a 65-year-old Palestinian woman to get her take on design. And I think what we came across is like components of different people's memories of oil. So, for instance, it's a clear bottle, right? That looks like a baby bottle. And the reason is my sister called this out of like when we used to get oil when you go to Palestine in the summer, you always get back things of like za'atar, cheese, oil, like whatever it is. Like everyone's suitcase is always stuffed with these things, and the way that it's packaged is always in reused like soda 2 liter or 1 liter packages. So like we were like, okay, how can we take that like idea of a repurposed bottle into the design of the oil? The stickers came from like I was talking to my cousin about like what's our most distinctive memories as kids when we were in like uh basically, like, when I would go visit Palestine, like, one of them was it was a World Cup happening, it was, like, '06, and it was, like, a thing to go collect the stickers of the different players in the World Cup, and we were like, "Okay, like, let's try to figure out how to incorporate that." So it's kind of just, like, the design itself, like, yeah, we worked with an artist overseas, to basically draw it out, but, like, the ethos when we gave him the creative brief was, like, "Yo, make it feel like the magazines and the, like, kids' storybooks that we used to have as kids." Like, basically, there's a channel called Space Tunes that redid, like, they redid, like, animes from Japan and, like, would dub them in Arabic, but then, like, cut out a bunch of scenes, so, like, the story is, like, there's entire animes without, like, main characters in them because, like, etcetera, making a like, Islamic and wholesome for kids. And, like, that's, like, that's the kind of the art style and art direction we wanted. So, that's the backstory of the design. To find the bottle was, like, a thing within itself, where we just, like, scavenged the internet to find unique shaped bottles, and this is actually, like, a honey bottle from China that, we then realized we could put, like insert a disc in to be an orifice reducer, and the first, like, couple thousand bottles were just, like, manually inserting a disc and, like, destroyed my body, but, like, it was worth it because the design was cool, and now we finally have a mold where I don't need to insert an orifice reducer, but, I argue over-engineered the design, but it was worth it because the way we see it is, like, from a business side, I guess, is, like, it's marketing within itself. Like, you open it, it's an experience, you have a relationship with a product that you don't have anyway, and then on top of that, like, it's very, shareable or whatever you wanna call it. But that's how we justify the overkill in design. And we're still trying to figure out production for it. Like, it's really hard to figure out how to do this efficiently because we're not making money probably per bottle because of how complicated the design is, but it's worth it. Look.
Again, I just love it, and you mentioned it's an experience when you open up that bottle. I did not realize what I was getting myself into when I got the bottle. Great, it's like a paper label, like, "Okay, but now there's a seam here, there's a perforated line, what is going on underneath the label?" I have never had a brand experience like I had with Hua. Yes, people send stickers, people send swag, but it's always in the box. It's not part of the product. And for that experience of unwrapping the bottle, the label comes off, and then you can decorate the bottle if you want to. I loved it.
Thank you, I genuinely appreciate it.
So well done. So I've gone to restaurants before. They give you olive oil, they give you sauces, you dip the bread, you dip whatever you have in there, and you might be able to taste like a different flavor profile in the olives depending where they come from in the world. So tell us about Hua. If there are any people out there that haven't tried Hua or they're thinking about trying it, what would they taste with Hua compared to maybe more mainstream olive oil brands?
Yeah. So, the agricultural process that you go through to make oil is what makes a unique flavor of oil. Um, I didn't realize how unique it was until I went back and, like, I talked to my, like, basically people in Italy, and I was like, "Oh, how do you guys produce it?" And I was like, "Oh, this is done in a completely different way unless it's done at a very small batch form, and we're doing it at, like, a very high quantity," right? So the flavor of it initially is very fruity up front, and then it's, like, peppery, almost spicy in the back. And the reason you get that is kind of what I mentioned, the way it's harvested. So, first you start from the tree. The trees that we're planting are the same ones my dad planted, the same ones my great-great-grandpa planted, et cetera. It goes on and on and on, and we're not planting since the GMO-fied trees. It's basically the same tree, same trees, and we're just planting their kids, and, like, that's kind of how most of the olive groves are built. Some of the trees actually go back all the way to, like, the Roman Empire. Like, we have, like, Byzantium's trees, and there's these massive husks, and, like, the veins on it or the husk is, like, almost veiny, and it's, like, this beautiful tree. And some of the oil that you might get is, like, in this bottle, like, might be roomy trees, and some of them might be newly planted trees. So from, actual taking care of the tree process, it's completely rain fed and there's no chemical fertilizer. So it's dry irrigation basically. When we actually go down to harvest it, everything is handpicked. We're talking about the extensive as it gets is these kind of hand picking machines that are like basically fingers, and it like kind of whatever it like hits the tree and it like takes it out. And essentially, what we're doing is picking out the most ripe fruit. Compare that to what like traditional olive, companies at the scale like that you see on a grocery store do is they attach a giant um like, machine to the husk, they shake it, and everything that comes out is basically what's in your oil. Um, so, in that sense, it's very unique. Then we take it down to the community press, and the way we're doing it, it basically makes it that, like, the oil in this bottle is either from the same tree or the tree right next to it. It's not, when we say single origin, we mean genuinely single origin. Some people would say single origin and be like, "Hey, we're single origin, and it's the size of the entire, like the size of Chicago. It'll be like that single origin, any tree from this region." And it's like, no, we're actually very focused in on making sure that the oil pressed is within that tree, the tree adjacent, or like two trees over. It's not kind of looking at it from a very et cetera way. And then when we go to press it, we're obviously pressing it very cold, very slow. If you're not buying cold pressed oil, basically what they're doing is they're pressing at a super high temperature. Olives are basically fruit, and olive oils, in a some essence, like fruit juice. And pressing at high temperature, basically cooking it before it even gets in the bottle, is how we see it. So and that's basically what makes the oil special, and that's why you get that flavor. The last factor, the most important factor is just fresh. Like this oil harvested in October, it's in front of you today. I don't wanna sell oil that, you know, is like 2, 3 years old, like the majority of other oils that sit on shelves. Like the way it's done is these companies buy massive amounts of olives at like very low cost from farmers. And then they like squeeze it in a mill, and then like it's a commodity sold the way that we sell petrol or sell, uh, any other commodity. And This is at the end of the day, this is fruit juice. Like, this is not, you know, a raw resource in that sense. So yeah, that's kind of why you get that flavor.
So it truly is a craft, and I also just love picturing in my mind this idea of single origin, but then this generation of trees, of olive trees that have been planted that you're then just, like, really just taking from the family. So this is it's a family run business through and through, even down to the trees. That is just
Yeah.
so special.
And there's also generations within who's picking the olives, right? Like, you'll see a 6-year-old out here, like, sorting the olives on the ground, and then, like, a 7-year-old grandma, like my aunt or something like that, who's very old, like, she'll still be at the olive grove just chilling, and, like, her daughters and sons are like you know what I'm saying? It's like the entire lineage is always there, picking it also, which is really nice and awesome.
That it really is just so special. I feel like the story that you're telling me now about your family and what you've been doing with the olives is, like, what many people dream of, or it just seems like it's something you'd read about, but it's not a reality, and the fact that you're actually doing it and keeping that alive is I'm very impressed. Jealous isn't the word, but maybe you get what I mean. I wish
Yeah.
I had something like that in my family.
No, I mean, I'm jealous too, right? Like, I'm not there. I'm in the diaspora. I'll go in October. I don't have the core childhood memories the way that, like, my cousins do. Um, but it's like, yo, it's special. And it's like, yo, if I can, maybe I didn't have it, but if I can give my kids a version of it, like, that's like the dream, right?
It's really cool that you've taken something that could be maybe just verbally passed down, and now you're giving everybody something physical that they can pass down to each other for generations to come.
Hopefully.
Love it. So, if there are any retailers who are listening to this episode, what is one thing that you'd want them to walk away with and keep in mind when they're considering Hua for their shelves?
I think the biggest thing is your consumers, once, especially as like people are elevating the things they want ingredients wise, people are starting to realize that olive oil is more should be in the produce section and shouldn't be in, you know, the aisle in the back next to the canned beans. And maybe I'm not saying, like, change the shelf location, but what I'm trying to say is I think increasingly people are demanding products that align to how they're actually manufactured and produced. And I think this oil pushes essentially my goal is, like, hopefully pushing the category more to that direction of, you know, you want fresh oil, like, from this year that's, like, really high quality and tastes unique and like nothing else, and try it. Like, open this oil and then open the 7 other bottles you have on shelf. It tastes different, and we can price it at a price we could afford because it's, like, all internal. I'm not paying, an marketing firm 300K to go design this bottle, like, we're doing it ourselves. We're importing ourselves, right? But the supply chain itself is very small, so we could compete price-wise, but produce a significantly higher product. So that's my takeaway, I guess, to retailers.
I'm kinda stunned right now.
Wait, did I
Picturing
take too hard of a shot? Is that,
No,
like, should have done okay.
that was great. I think I mean, for me, that just transforms the idea of olive oil because, yes, like you're saying, it is a fruit at the end of the day, and if you're gonna be harvesting it, pressing it as if it is a fruit, why wouldn't it live in the produce section instead of, like, on a dusty
It
shelf
it
somewhere?
w will taste different. Like,
It
this oil
looks
tastes different
different too.
already. Yeah. I'm saying that even like this oil, like Hua's oil tastes different now than it did in November. Like, it evolves in flavor, like, and that evolution of flavor gets lost completely in, like, the olive oil section because it's kind of like 2-year-old oil just sitting on a shelf or whatever it is. Um, it's just kind of, like, super processed and refined where it's, like, any flavor of it is gone.
You're blowing my mind right now. It's a good thing. Okay, we're coming up on time, so I'd love to know, how did you find Startup CPG?
Actually, that's a good question. I think I was just looking for podcasts about CPG when you first started this because I was like, "Okay, if we wanna do this, let's do it right." Like, let me apply the skills I learned in college and, like, in, like, my career and, like, actually do it. And I think I was just Googling, like, who are the media publications that are kind of, centers of information, et cetera, and I think I landed on it there. What I'll say is every single person I've also talked to, like, I think a big thing when, like, starting a brand or, like, anything, like, you're not the first person to do this, just talk to everyone you can. Everyone has been like, "Oh, you should check out Startup CPG." So I think eventually I would have heard about it, but I think I just, like, look in the podcast app, like CPG podcast or something like that, to just listen to while I drive so I could, like, learn the industry.
And look at
Uh,
you. Now you're a
yeah.
guest on the
Wow.
podcast. Full circle.
Dreams come true.
Dreams do come true. Okay, let's make your dreams come true. Let's get more people to Hua. So tell us where our listeners can find you. Where are you online? What's your handle? Drop everything for us.
Yeah. Everything is Huwa Tasty, so Huwa and then the word tasty, on Instagram, on TikTok, on huwatasty.com. I guess, yeah, like, that's where you can find us if you wanna see, like, cute videos of the family or, like, harvest, what it looks like. If you wanna see, like, people on, like, a ladder hitting a tree with a stick to get olives out that then end up in your bottle, give us a follow.
I love following you and I've loved talking to you. This was so fun, and you've definitely given me some things to think about when it comes to putting traditions in place for my own family. So, thank you for being a guest, and thank you for giving me some food for thought.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
It was
I
great
appreciate
talking to
this.
you. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a solid and leave us a 5-star review on ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. I'm Caitlin Bricker, the host of the Founder Feature series and editor at Startup CPG. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack and get on my radar. I'm always keeping my eyes peeled for new and emerging brands to spotlight. If you're a potential sponsor who would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our free CPG community on Slack. You can sign up via our website at startupcpg.com. See you around.